So we start with the build of the wagon from Woodleigh Engineering. Just to say a few more bits about the quality. The instructions, which are available online, I know I could print them out, but I'm not going to, are of a very high quality, very well written, very clear. I shouldn't have to say this, but in good English. Not everything we get is in the best English, and with lots of helpful guidance as to how to prepare the components before assembling and gluing, and the glue to use. It did say to use an accelerator. So the first thing I would say, I have got spray accelerator. I tend not to use it because super glue works well enough. I think there's enough life left in this super glue here for it to work with this. Super glue tends to go off before I use it. Accelerator, I believe, takes a little bit of the strength out of the super glue. Now, let's get on. But before I take them out, I just wanted to show that, you probably saw it in the unboxing, each component is protected by its own plastic bag. This costs time and money to do, but they've gone to the trouble of packaging them. I have had other kits where things are not just thrown into a box, but they are put into a box with minimum protection between components so that during transit they can be rubbing against one another, and that can cause some surface abrasion and possibly damage. Let me clamp the camera so that I can get on with assembly. I'll just see how clearly you can see this. In the bottom of the hole, there's a little bit of the plastic stringing. I'm not sure that's interfering much with the fit, but when this is pushed in, there's a tiny gap, and it's really a matter of how concerned you are about a small gap between the base of this and the sole bar. If I get the light on it there, if I push that hard, it goes in, so the gap is 0.5 millimeter or so. But one of the things is, as it's molded, then it's hard to get a very sharp angle here. So it's slightly rounded here. And so what I'm doing is just filing these edges a little bit to make them a bit sharper, so that it's not fouling with the square edge of the hole as it's going in at the top. I guess I could file that bit of the hole equally well, and that does seem to improve it, and then you can squeeze that together. The spacer doesn't need any modification at all. The spacer just drops in like that and can be glued in place. So my filing of the tabs on the floor is almost undercutting the tab, and I found that by doing that, I get it to such a state that the side fits more readily. Remember, it's going to be super glued on. That provides a good mechanical location. And of course, there is a square. I've got my own little tri-square that will hold the side at right angles to the floor. So I'm not relying on the tab fit to hold it at right angles. So yeah, so I filed each of these tabs down a little bit to make it so that the side fits on better. That's gone on nicely. If I turn it round and get the light onto it, so that there's not much gap, very little gap now, so that the super glue's got a chance of adhering between the side and the floor of the wagon, and that's vertical. So yeah, going together all right. Well, as the instructions say, do a lot of trial fitting. Remember to put the ends on carefully before the final side. So you put one side on, one end, make sure it's all square, put the other end on, and then the other side. But yeah, it's filing down. I think I showed them those tabs so that they fit into the components nicely. You'll see it for yourselves. That's the only, what I would call, fettling that's needed. I think I could have carved it with a sharp knife, but at the end of the day I was thinking this needle file was rather too fine because I just wanted to rub a coarse bit off. But it's done the job. The gaps are tight enough for this super glue. This, I would say, was medium thickness, medium to thick. It's not the thin runny super glue. The thin runny might not be appropriate in terms of being able to fill the joints because there is still some gapping. I didn't get it so the joints are super tight. Down to, can we see it? It's difficult to get the light so you can see. You can't see much of a joint, I mean a gap there. So that hopefully means I've nearly got my finger stuck to the thing. There we are, it's still got super glue on it that's a bit wet. I've got a fingerprint on it now on that side where I touched it. And there's a bit of super glue overhanging there. But the joints are tight enough for me. The strapping, I've got a peg on that strapping there, just trying to hold it back against the end as it's gone in. But the joints down there, I think, are tight enough. And the joint along here is tight enough for me. Remember, it's a wooden plank built wagon, and so there might well have been gaps between the planks. Pleased so far with how that's going together, and it's looking and feeling quite strong now. Well, a confirmation of how accurately this has been printed is the fact that these bearings push in quite nicely. They're a good push fit. Just push it in from the top, turn it upside down, press, and then they're seated. So that's the axle bearings. The wheels, again, the fit onto the axles is what's described, I believe, by engineers as a push fit, and that's what it is, and consistent on all four of those wheels. And what I'm just noticing is just quite how nicely done the flanges are on the wheels there. So that's good. Now, the safety chains, it says no need to glue in, it's just a push fit. So the hooks hang in towards the wagon, but obviously when you've got the wagon upside down, the hooks will hang out. And as printed, they're a very tight fit. Too tight for me to manage to get them in easily. So what I've been doing is filing all round, just gently filing all round, and then as I say, it's upside down so I can apply some pressure and then push it in. But at that position there, oh, maybe I can push it in. I've been trying to push it in with the end of the pliers here, but no, I'm not going to try and do that on camera. It's not going in. So the build time so far is just a couple of hours. The axle boxes, I didn't properly check, but I think they're dovetailed. So when you push them down, they slot in. So these aren't glued in, but they are in nice and tight. And I think it's like a little bit of a dovetail. So as you push the wheel set and axle boxes down, it fits in really nice and securely. The wheels are spinning nicely. That's just an extra detail. I mean, you can add this detail, the brake handle and the brake shoe, at any time you like. You don't have to do it in the order shown. You could leave it off and just play with it for a while and not have the vulnerability of that. But I'm wanting to put the chains on. There are 2 safety chains fitted there, but I thought it was just worth mentioning on this video the fact that I'm needing to file down all round this block before inserting it into the buffer beam. It's a fine needle file, so I've not taken that much off. And now, well, I'll try with my fingers first of all. It just goes in more easily, and then I can just push it home. That's better. And if you felt as though you're taking too much off with the filing, of course, you can just put a dab of glue in there. So that then is the safety chains, which when the chains are hanging properly, will hang inwards. A lovely detail. Yeah, you've got to, why is it rocking? It might be this isn't level. Have I moved something? And the brake shoe is fouling the wheel. I might have moved something when I've been pressing things about. I'll have to check that. Yep, something's rocking, something's not right. We'll check that out in a moment. So just the buffers. I'm going to put the dumb buffers on with 3-link coupling and hook. That will match some of the other wagons I've been running alongside this. And that would be it complete, apart from whatever I've disturbed just now. Oh, I can see it there. Somehow I've pulled that out. But it isn't glued, so it's easy enough to reseat that axle box, and I'll be able to get that level. I don't know how I managed to pull that out. Just pushing things, I suppose. So 4 strokes on each of the faces of that part, and you'll slightly round off the edge, and that makes that a suitable looser push fit on there for the glue to work. Try 3 strokes. This the main issue is square corners, or not getting square corners, the tightness, interference in the corners. So slightly rounding all 4 corners, and then a little dab of glue is probably all that's required to hold that in there. Let's just put some glue around it. And what we'll also do is put some glue onto the buffer, and looking at which side is more finely printed. That goes into there nicely. Now that the doesn't sit flush with it. Now that the I find it easier. I tried fitting the buffer head on before inserting it, and it's certainly much easier to insert that base part of the buffer first, and then put this on with the artifacts, so that at the bottom on the underside can squeeze it all tight now, so when the wagon's the right way up you don't see the artifacts. And the only thing to add to that now is the hook, and I will put a drop of glue onto the hook, and the hook will go in from above. It's not facing the right way yet, but that's a much easier fit into that hole than the other one was. Let's pick up a bit more glue. That's interesting. Okay, let the glue set. So I think is that it? 3-link coupling to go on, and keep lots of spare bits of 3-link around. Oh, there's the springs, the spring thing. So is that part of the chopper couplings? I'll have to fire up the computer to have a look and see what it is. I've got to reload the computer. There we go. The longest time is the safety chains, opening the links and fitting them up, I think. And as I say, with a fine needle file, no more than 3 or 4 strokes needed to ease some of the tabs to get them to fit. It rolls nice and freely. It looks good. That's the brake side with the sole bar. There is a transfer, the relief on the axle boxes, the white tyres on the wheels. No, that's not quite seated down as far as it would. I haven't quite finished that, but there we go. That's my wagon. The instructions say to push fit these hangers into the sole bar. I have done that and it will just about work, but I find it easier. I've just filed it down, put a dab of glue on, and that hopefully means if I filed it enough, it will go in more easily. Yeah, that went in more easily. Believe me, you won't be able to push it in that easily unless you file it down, and the dab of glue will hold it on. So I'm still pushing it in. So that's just a minor change to the, it's up to you. Pushing it with a pointy thing damages it, but that's the hangers fitted onto there. And if I look at the instructions now, it needs just the transfers attaching with the markings on it, water slide transfers, and then the whole thing needs to be sealed. Now, the sealing will do, as far as I can see, 2 things. The thing that it stated it's needed for is this is probably printed in PLA, not ABS, which means that it will deteriorate in the sun unless you protect it from UV light. And therefore, it's important that you spray it with, well, what do they suggest? Plasticoat Matte Clear varnish, but any clear varnish will do. You could do some weathering before you varnish it if you want, or you can do weathering after you varnish it as well and then revarnish to secure the weathering. But that's essential if it's going to be outside or in any light for any length of time to stop the deterioration of the plastic. The varnishing then, the undocumented advantage of varnishing it, so don't get it on the axles, is it helps to glue it all together, to seal it, because varnish will soak into the gaps here and acts like an adhesive to some extent, and so it just helps to further firm the whole thing up. Very pleased with that, and we'll see how I get on with the second one. And I may do as is suggested in the instructions, put a chopper coupling on one end, the dumb buffer on the other, so that it becomes a match truck, because it will make a nice match truck to run behind locos which have been fitted with chopper couplings, so I can run my 3-link. I do have match trucks, but I'll review. What have I done there? That's not stuck on the glue, has it? This is the side I put glue on. Yeah, let's take it. You can see the glue on there. I think you can see it reflecting and being shiny. So I need to keep that hook off that glue, otherwise it will attach to that super glue that's on there. Right, I hope that's of some use. That's taken me, as I say, a couple of hours to do, and the next time you see it, hopefully it'll have its partner with it. Altogether a reasonably straightforward build. I could still do a little bit of cleaning up, I guess, on some of the corners, but when that's running around the track, I think it will look like a mighty fine, highly detailed wagon.